This paper is entitled Investigating Academic Affective States of Sub-Saharan African, Filipino and Latin American Spanish Adult Learners using Brainwave Signals from the Center for Empathic Human-Computer Interactions, College of Computer Studies, Salle University, Manila, Philippines. My name is Mahruaii Swansi. I am originally from northeastern part of India, but spent my time in Pune city near Bombay on the west coast of India. I lived for a number of years in sub-Saharan Africa, but now my family and I are stationed in the Philippines. Computer-assisted learning systems interacts with learners via computer tutors that attempts to act like human teacher and guides the learner based on detective cognitive state of the learner, but have not made much advancement in detecting or considering the affective or the emotional state of a learner. But, according to Professor Rosalind Picard, emotions do play an important role in learning. Therefore, efforts have been made in detecting affective or emotional state of a learner. These emotions of a learner may be detected via facial expression, voice, posture, gestures, and biosignals. These emotions are specifically called academic emotions, and they are interested, confused, frustrated, and bored. This research is an attempt at modeling academic affective states of adult learners using biosignals, specifically EEG signals. EEG is a recording of electrical activity generated by brain structures. This study is limited to beta waves since it is known to have higher range of frequency and is responsible for an alert state. Heras and Fresson investigated pleasure, arousal, and dominance, and then correlated these brainwaves with these emotions. Mampusti created an affective model of human academic emotions. Ascaraga measured levels of excitement, frustration, and engagement of college academic achievers and then attempted to predict the level of difficulty of tasks faced by them. Herradura used plot visualization and then found that engagement have higher amplitude than boredom. Research in education has shown that educational methodologies and instructional design differ from culture to culture. One such study by Ogun compared models of help-seeking skill based on students' practice in an intelligent tutoring system. The context were Costa Rica, the US, and the Philippines. They found that models are not transferable and postulate that culture could be responsible. Therefore, this research explores the possibility of building culturally aware contextual models of EEG signals for adult learners. This research draws its rationale from the theory of andragogy as opposed to pedagogy by Malcolm Knowles. The theory states that teaching adults should differ from teaching young people. The experiment and the data gathering took place at the Adventist International Institute of Advanced Studies, where I live and work. This institute is located only 15 minutes drive from the beautiful and picturesque city of Tagaytay, Cavite. All the participants are from the institute and almost all above 30 years of age. Since the data collection method involves learning a new skill set, only the students who are currently enrolled as graduate students were invited, and office workers who needed the skill sets were also invited, including the faculty. This was strictly implemented to maintain the integrity of the data collected. The skill sets being taught is one of the many workshops conducted on a regular basis. The participants were divided into 3 groups. Each group comprises of 11. The groups are Latin American Spanish, Sub-Saharan African, and the Filipino group. African have 8 male and 3 female, Spanish have 6 male and 5 female, and the Filipino have 4 male and 7 female. Unfortunately, 2 African ladies could not participate because of very thick braids on their hair, even though we tried our level best in trying to get the emotive epoch headset fit. To maintain the authenticity of the data collected, a few of the data had to be discarded because it was later found out that they have attended the workshop conducted earlier, and some had to be discarded because they were just not willing to make an effort to learn the skill sets being taught. For all sessions, these are the equipments used. Laptop with projector connected for me to be able to demonstrate the skill sets. Another laptop for the participant, the emotive epoch headset for data collection, and of course a table and a chair. This picture is an attempt at trying to depict the experimental setup. I tried videotaping every session, but after a while I gave up since it became too much of a hassle setting it up. EEG signals were captured using a software called Observatory. The academic emotions were induced by making the lessons slightly more difficult as it progresses from skill number 1 to skill number 5. The lessons were designed such that even if someone have had working experience using the computers but do not get a grasp of the logical sequences involved, then he or she is bound to find the lessons difficult. And someone with basic skills to operate a computer but understands the logical sequences involved, then he or she is bound to do well. The session was divided into 2. Session 1. With the use of a projector, I demonstrate each and every skill set shown here, but the headset was turned off. Session 2. Sheets of paper was handed to the subject containing the exact same step-by-step instructions that I have just demonstrated. I explain the reporting mechanisms, and the subject is encouraged to report as frequently as possible. And then the emotive epoch headset is turned on. On the left, we see a picture of one of the respondents, and on the right is the observatory software. When the subject clicks the report button, the self-report window pops up, as shown here. The levels or intensity of each emotion may be reported by sliding the sliding bar from left to right, as shown. The reported emotions can have numeric values ranging from a minimum of 0 to 100. The entire session, that is session 1 and session 2, typically last a maximum of 45 minutes, but a number of them also opted to stop after finishing skill number 2, which is generally about 25 minutes. Data pre-processing was implemented separately for the Sub-Saharan African group, Latin American, and the Filipino group. The raw data from the EEG sensor and the self-reported emotions were merged, as shown here. The merged data was then segmented into 2-second windows with 1 second overlap. Each segmented window file has all the 4 academic emotions and ratings or scores reported by the subject. Since each segmented window can only be one emotion, the most dominant emotion, which is the largest value of the 4 emotions, was chosen. Beta waves were extracted. Hamming window method was used to design the bandpass filter. The filtered signals are then subjected to Fourier analysis. 6 statistical features were extracted: mean, maximum, minimum, median, standard deviation, and variance. It was rather interesting to note that the Filipino group in general seemed to hesitate in reporting the negative emotions such as confusion and frustration, while on the other hand, the Spanish group and the African group seemed to have no problem in reporting the negative emotions, which is reflected in the data set shown here. Please note that all comparisons between the groups are done in percentages and not literal comparisons of the number of instances of each of the emotions for all groups. Models were built separately for all three groups and for each emotion by subdividing each emotion into high and low, and an instance was classified as low if the numeric score, which is the reported ratings by the subject, is less than or equal to 50, and high if the score is greater than 50, as shown here. Instances which have a score of 50 and above are labeled as high confused, and a score of 50 or less are labeled as low confused. A close look at the table here shows that the high confused emotion ratings by the respondent have a corresponding EEG brainwave signals of higher numerical values, and vice versa for low confused emotion, which is rather interesting. This table shows Filipino high confused emotion as only 37% as compared to 62% for African and 49% for the Spanish. Again, looking at the frustrated emotion, Filipino have 52% of high frustrated emotion, whereas African have 62% and 88% for the Spanish group. This trend seemed to have confirmed statements from the Canadian government Department of Foreign Affairs and Development. It states that Filipinos generally struggle with the word no and have difficulty contending with frankness or directness, while Argentinians and Chileans willingly express themselves in a more open way. In Ghana, Congo, and Ethiopia, displays of anger are very common, and people will generally settle their differences instantly, even if it means a strong verbal exchange. This is evident with the way Filipino subjects reported their emotions while undergoing the experiment or the exercise. Decision tree was implemented using rapid minor. Given large number of instances per person and the fact that instances overlap with each other, student-level validation was implemented. The African group maintained highest prediction accuracy rate, followed by the Spanish group, and then the Filipino group for all emotion models. The pattern of higher prediction accuracy rate for the African group could be that their EEG signals are more consistent with their reported emotions. It means that African group could easily and effectively report their emotions. According to Kim and Co., different cultural assumptions and practices influence whether and how individuals express their thoughts and feelings. Therefore, we may conclude that the Sub-Saharan African group's ability to easily identify and effectively report their emotion could be culturally influenced, or for that matter, even the Spanish and Filipino group. The prediction accuracy trend described may also imply that the method of self-reported emotion mechanism is more effective for the Sub-Saharan Africans. When African model is compared with combined model for all emotions, the African outperformed the combined, indicating that ethnicity-specific model may be more effective. A real-time implementation of a computer-assisted learning system should ideally be able to detect or recognize low-interested, high-frustrated, and high-confused emotion. The system will then intervene and make adjustments to the learning contents and processes. Logistic regression algorithm was implemented using rapid minor with a tenfold cause validation. The algorithm was then manipulated using a mechanism termed as trading off between precision and recall by Professor Andrew Ng. The algorithm's threshold was fine-tuned to have high recall value for low-interested, high-frustrated, and high-confused emotions, which can be seen right here. The threshold's value was fine-tuned so that the F-score value also improves, and then the threshold that produces the best F-score is chosen. This is the result of the fine-tuning that I have just mentioned. African group maintained highest threshold for all models, implying that the group's neurons' electrical impulses have highest magnitudes, followed by the Spanish group and then the Filipino group. It may be possible to infer that the African group experienced all three emotions the strongest or the most intense, followed by the Spanish group and then the Filipino group. Interestingly, though, the difference in the thresholds for the African group and the Filipino group is not big for a more positive emotion like interested emotion. Again, it may be possible to infer that the Filipino group experienced positive emotion as intense as the other two groups. Using these results, it will be possible to design a real-time computer-assisted learning system by plugging in these logistic regression threshold values, which will in turn enable the models to detect and predict high frustrated, high confusion, and low interested emotions across all three groups. In the future, I would love to explore other feature extraction techniques, collect additional data, and I will only work with African and the Filipino group, and also investigate correlation between facial expressions and EEG signals. Thank you for listening.